So many.
Yeah, we're at 28, 29.
The camera is running, and there are 20 seconds remaining before we'll be on the air with the multiple award-winning WILK Friday Beer Buzz.
Action.
And
What's really sad is I found the
10
one that
seconds.
I thought
Here we
was
go.
my family member. It wasn't him at all, just the same name, so I had to scratch him off the tree.
oh, the disco ball of love.
Let's have a party and drink up a lot of beer. Let's have a party and drink up a lot of beer.
Here we're talking amongst ourselves.
25 minutes before 9 o'clock, the morning news with Webster and Nancy on WILK. Now, the two-time winner of the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters Award and the two-time, how many? Two-time winner of the Pennsylvania Associated Press Broadcasters Association Award. She's in the union now, and she's on some kind of break.
You're not allowed to touch the camera.
Promoting and advancing the crafted microbrew culture in Northeast Pennsylvania. Yes, friends, it's another edition of the Friday Beer Buzz!
And the Friday Beer Buzz powered by Sabatini's in Exeter. One of the area's greatest selections of rare crafted imported beers, growlers and crowlers, a hand pump, and 35 rotating drafts. All at Sabatini's Pizza and Sabatini's Bar and Bottle Shop, Wyoming Avenue in Exeter. And look who just walked in.
The door swings open. Here's Lindo. Lindo Sabatini.
Lindo.
I heard my name. I figured I'd walk in.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect timing. You got here just in the nick of time. Bill from mybeerbuzz.com, of course.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
We had just given away your portion.
It was right in front of me.
Say, does he need
Luckily, you
to?
arrived just in the nick of time.
Before John drank it
You
all.
better believe it.
Seconds.
I have my
seconds
crazy
away.
straw ready to go.
Silly straw.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Bill.
Friday.
We have a guest joining us.
All right, we're going right to the guest.
I understand he's on the phone.
Yes, he is.
Joining us.
This is Greg.
Hey.
Greg, how's it going? From Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
great.
From the Pabst
Happy
Brewing.
Friday.
Greg, we had a big showbiz intro all ready to go, but you jumped the gun on us.
From the
Oh,
Pabst.
that's all right. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
From the Pabst Brewing Company today, we have Greg Deuhs.
Hey. See, that's so much better, isn't it?
See, we got that out of the way now. Now we're better
Sorry
off.
about that.
That's all. It's all good.
Thanks for joining us again, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So did I see in the PR coming out now from Pabst, I noticed it in the last release or two, that Pabst is showing themselves as the largest American-owned brewery.
Yes, that is correct. Yep, we sure are.
Wow.
Putting that in all the
That's
PR.
good.
That's a
Awesome.
wonderful claim to fame.
Yes, and we definitely have our heritage for here in Milwaukee, and going back to 1844, and we're proud of it.
So, Greg, give us an update. I just read speaking of press releases, you guys are bringing back Rainier, but bringing it, you're bringing it and brewing it through the Craft Brew Alliance.
Yes, we are out at the Woodinville Brewery in Seattle. We're bringing back some specialty beers under the Rainier name, and what Seattle Brewing and Malting produced in the past. So that's a very exciting project, and going to head out there in a few weeks and do some test brewing.
And for people unfamiliar with the Craft Brew Alliance, that is a conglomeration of Widmer, Kona, and Red Hook, and they call themselves the Craft Brew Alliance. So we'll see. Will we see beers we have not seen, or is it just the moving of production of existing Rainier beers?
No, these will be new beers. Very, very craft oriented beers, and will be for that market in the Pacific Northwest. Very excited about that.
And Pabst also does a bunch of other brands that people are familiar, but not a lot of people are familiar that they come. We're familiar with Blue Ribbon, Pabst Blue Ribbon, but you guys brew a lot of other beers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. National Bohemian on the East Coast, that's a big Maryland beer. Lone Star in Texas, Old Style in the Midwest, Schlitz and Stroh's, and, of course, Rainier and Olymp. And don't forget Colt 45.
Yes.
Who could forget Colt 45?
You know, it's funny because just yesterday I just happened upon, there's a music video by a guy who I don't know how legitimate a country star he is, because his name is Scuzz Twitley. You ever hear that guy?
No.
Yeah. He's got a song that's called Keep Your Hands Off My PBR. But I will say this, Greg, that not a single line in the song can you put on the air without the FCC stepping in. Let me just put it that way. But it's a great song, actually, and it's all about PBR. It's pretty cool, actually.
That does sound very cool.
Scuzz Twitley. You Google him later on when there's no kids around.
Great. I've seen a bunch of new PBR packaging coming. I've seen there's like an American Heritage collection. There's PBR music cans. You guys do quite a bit of different packaging just than the regular plain PBR cans.
Yeah, we had the Heritage package in the fall for the holidays, and they were kind of it was very, very nice because it went back to the heritage pictures, but it also had some taglines to it that were updated, and it was fun. And then, of course, we've got the art can and music cans coming out, so we always want to tie into the independent music and independent art people who support our beer.
So we're featuring a beer that's not Pabst today. It's a Ballantine beer, and we did Ballantine IPA. We premiered it with you on the show. We're going to do a different Ballantine beer today. Give us a little historical background on how you guys came to brew Ballantine and the brewery itself.
The original Ballantine and Sons Brewery was in New York, New Jersey, and they were, in my opinion, a brewery way ahead of their time. They were making the IPA starting in 1878. Which, if you think about it, you're making a high hop, high alcohol IPA in the 1800s is pretty unique. And then after Prohibition, they started coming out with the Burton Ale, and Burton Ale was modeled after a stock ale, very strong in alcohol, and also aged for a very long period of time. And they would brew and age for up to 20 years.
Yeah.
And then they would package for gifts, not for sale. And very interesting process in how they age that beer.
So our beer today is Burton Ale.
Where's Burton come from? Why is it called that?
That comes from the town in England called Burton-on-Trent.
Oh.
Very big brewing center in England that makes some very highly hopped beers using very hard water. And the water in Cold Spring, where we make the Burton Ale and the IPA, is very close to the Burton water.
When I read that this was originally aged 20 years in oak vats, I thought it was a typo. So it really was back in the day. I mean, not the current version, but back in the day, they did age this thing for up to 20 years.
Yes, and if you Google the Burton IPA, or I'm sorry, the Burton Ales, and actually see the photograph of the bottle, they will put the day it was brewed on and also the day it was packaged. And usually it's between 5 and 7 years, but every once in a while you'll see one that's 20 years.
Wow.
That's stunning.
And,
that's just unbelievable.
Yes.
That could be a lifetime for a brewer. And this beer was never, it was sort of a beer that was brewed to be given as a gift from the brewery. It was previously never publicly sold.
Exactly. It was for gifts only. And as the Burton Ale aged, every tank had a special lock on it so that people couldn't get to the beer and taste the beer. And there were only 2 keys. One was held by the quality manager and one was held by the brewmaster.
That sounds like the refrigerator in my basement.
Yep.
Wow.
And every year they would go in fall and taste all the tanks in aging and decide which ones they're going to package for the Burton Ale of that year. Sometimes they were straight tanks, sometimes they were blended tanks.
So when you guys decide to bring this beer back, and you brought it back this year for the first time, it was a sort of a holiday seasonal or winter seasonal. What process do you go through when you try to even figure out, can we bring this beer back? Can we even make this beer?
That's a good question. I received a lucky break when I was doing the IPA research and talked to a former quality manager at the brewery, and he gave me some insights on what the Burton Ale recipe was. And so we did have a direction to go. Furthermore, going to our partner in Cold Spring, they've been around since the 1800s, late 1800s, and they had some funky tanks left over in their stockhouse. And I picked 2 tanks that resembled the physical geometry of the wooden tanks in the Ballantine Brewery and used those tanks for primary fermentation and aging.
Did you have...
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat because we took oak staves and we lined the bottom with oak and wanted to replicate that character and fermented and aged, and it was a very unique experiment, but it all turned out.
It turned out very nicely. Did you guys actually get to taste any of the original Burton Ale before you made it, or were you going on sort of the descriptors of the original?
I just went by the descriptors of original. I haven't had the pleasure of tasting an original Burton ale. I looked at every YouTube video and read everything I could on people that has had the beer, and went that direction. Plus, knowing what the QA manager told me helped also.
And it's a really interesting beer. There's a lot of complexity. It hits you with both notes of sweet, a little bit oaky. It hits you with hops. You wouldn't think there'd be hops in this thing, but this thing is 75 IBU. So they kind of sneak in there behind the upfront sweetness. Greg, how would you describe the beer?
Well, the beer's changed actually in the last 3 months. The hops are coming through more now than originally bottled. When it was originally bottled, it was a really creamy, malty, sweet flavor with some hop aroma. But now the hops are starting to come through as the beer ages. And we plan to make the Valentine Burton Ale every year, so we encourage people to save beers and see how they age, because I think this one's going to age very well.
That's a great idea, but it's the hardest thing I ever have to do. Save the beer.
We did just open my last bottle, Greg, so we should have called earlier. This beer, it is a pretty big beer, right? 11.5%-ish ABV?
Yes, and it was a real challenge to get that much malt in the mash mixer and water tun, and we had to kind of steer the beer as we went and make corrections to the brewing process every batch we made, and the total came out to over 28 original gravity Plato points and 11.3% alcohol, which was our target.
It's a sneaky 11.3, though. It doesn't really bite you. There's not a big boozy flavor to it. You can tell it's there. We are honored in this, in that Valentine gave this to President Harry Truman as a gift.
Is that right?
Wow.
So we are honored to have you sent us, Greg, some of this, Greg.
Wow. That's outstanding.
Yeah, they like to send it to everybody, politicians and movie stars and influential people, and it
also,
was
all those things
really
that you
kind of
are.
a trademark of the brewery.
Well, that sounds just like us, Greg.
Yes,
That's
Intellectuals,
for sure.
that's what
Yeah, we're enjoying
intellectuals.
Valentine Burton Ale. Greg Deuhs is the brewmaster from Past Brewing and Valentine. Greg, the beer's delicious, and I'd like to say it's one of those 3R beers, recliner remote refrigerator at 11.3%,
Definitely.
but it's very good.
Thank you very much. We also saved about 500 cases that we're putting in cold storage that we're going to age and see how that goes.
Oh, boy.
So it's not done yet.
Wow.
Still going.
Man, we'll have you back again next year at this time.
Yep.
Excellent. Greg, thanks for being on the show this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always great to be on the show.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.
Talk to you again next time. Thanks.
The Friday Beer Buzz, powered by Sabatini's in Exeter, one of the area's greatest selection of rare craft and imported beers, growlers and crowlers, a hand pump, and 35 rotating drafts at Sabatini's Pizza and Sabatini's Bar and Bottle Shop, Wyoming Avenue in Exeter.
The Friday Beer Buzz, bringing good beers and good people together.